My name is Amanda Jo Schreiber. I am a graduate research assistant at the University of Missouri under Dr. Harley Nauman in the Division of Plant Sciences and Technology. I am in the third year of my master's degree with a project focusing on the establishment of native plant species in silvopasture systems for livestock forage. So as I stated earlier, we are establishing native forage plant species in a silvopasture system. The silvopasture that we are using was already pre-established as far as the tree component, so we are just solely looking at the establishment of a forage component for livestock grazing. You know, you have to do a lot of prep work and planning beforehand to make sure you're selecting your proper tree species and your forage species and what you're going to graze and how you're going to set everything up. You have to do all that beforehand, and that helps mitigate some of the risk, but that's also why we are doing the research, is so that we can see what works and what doesn't without somebody having to put up the financing to completely convert their system over to a silvopasture right away. So that's the whole point of the research. Silvopasture is an agroforestry practice. It's one of 6, and silvopasture isn't a new practice. It's actually one of the most common practices in North America. It may not be widely practiced here in Missouri, but it is practiced across the continent, as it's one of the most common ones. It wasn't called silvopasture when it originated. I believe they were called like dehesas in Spain, and they would graze pigs through, I think they were oak trees, I believe. And it was it wasn't as constructed and intentional as what we do today. It's just how they grazed their animals back then, in trees, with some intention on managing the forage underneath and not just letting it run amok to where it becomes not sustainable. You know, it just takes care of the land by rotating and not tearing up the trees because you want to eventually use them for something else. If you are trying to establish these native plant species in an area where there is already a vigorous pasture plant growing and you need to eliminate from the system, make sure you do so thoroughly by whatever means you choose to do so, through fire, herbicide, whatever, mowing, whatever your choice may be. Just do it thoroughly so that you decrease your chances of having that regrowth act as an additional pressure on your newly established seedlings. That will help with your success overall in the end. We chose our native plant species based off our geographic location and what was native to our area. When you're trying to establish your native species, some of what we have in our project may grow in the same area that you're in, but it may not. So something that you want to check before purchasing seed is if that native plant is going to grow in your area, or if it was something that's more native to the southern part of the state. So always check to make sure you have your correct growing zone for your native plants before you make the purchase on the seed, because what works well for us here in central Missouri may not work for somebody that's closer to the Iowa border or somebody down in the Boot Heel. Of the 23 species that we've established, we have seen a variety, but it is not the same throughout each of the treatments. All of the treatments, including the control, have an establishment of the wild rye. We have 3 different types. We have Eastern Canada and Virginia wild rye that make up our cool season grass component. Of our warm season grasses, we have had Big Blue Stem established. None of the other 4 have that we've seen so far. The forb and legume component, the predominant species that we've seen come up are partridge pea and cup plant. We've also seen things like wild bergamot and plains coreopsis and tick seed coreopsis. But most of these have came up in the second year of establishment. So we're seeing them more in the stuff that are in the, we're seeing them more in the treatments that were planted in fall of 2019, more so than what we planted last fall in 2020. Every once in a while, more so in the walnut and the control, we will have some of the Maximilian or Oxeye sunflower, but they tend to like a larger amount of sunlight compared to what you would get in the pine treatment. At the end of this video, I've included a list of references for further information on how one can go about establishing a silvopasture either as a new or into an existing pasture system.